What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Ideal Offseason. Now look, before we get into anything, ignore the pile of pillows that I got going on over there. I threw my back out playing basketball yesterday. I'm only 25, yet I keep throwing my back out. So y'all just let me have my place to put my knees up, okay? But anyway, we're back with another Ideal Offseason. You guys have seemed to like these, so that's awesome. I'm trying to build on these and make them more and more realistic as I go. So don't take it as like 100%, like this is exactly how the salary cap works and everything. I don't have time to build in the functionality for everything, but we try to build on it as we go. We do try to make things make sense in this series, though, so we're going to try to make moves that actually make sense for this team. The team we're doing today is the Lakers, so thank you for the comments for suggesting that one. This team's a little bit different, though, than the last ones we did. The last ones we did were kind of in these places where they're not really good, and they don't necessarily need to be good, so, how do we kind of retool the roster? The Lakers are completely different because they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and they're trying to win a championship while LeBron's still in the NBA. So that means we got to make completely different moves. With this team that I'm trying to construct is trying to compete for a championship this next season. And who knows, maybe the Lakers still find a way to win the finals this year, but for the time being, there's definitely some things that we can look to move around, and the first thing we should take a look at is the money situation. I've actually added the different aprons here just because the Lakers, that's how much money that they've burned through. And so this is set up to emulate the 2024-2025 season and what that looks like as of right now. So right now, they've got about $10 million left in the second apron of luxury tax. And now, that doesn't mean that I can just go sign any player for $10 million. Normally, how that works, if you want to sign somebody when you're over the cap, like the normal cap, is you have to have their bird rights, which means that they had to have been on your team like the previous season. The other way we can go over that is by making trades, right? So that's how we're going to probably look to improve the roster this year, along with using like a second round pick, things like that. We don't have access to like a ton of our picks. This 2029 pick, I believe, is the only pick we can actually use because of I can't remember what exact rule it's called, but you can't be trading players, or not players, first round picks over consecutive seasons. So we've got a first round pick to work with. We've got some tradable contracts in like Hachimura. People would want Austin Reeves. Gabe Vincent is money that you can move. Jared Vanderbilt has some value. Hood Schifino's got some value. But let's take a look at player options first. LeBron James has a player option. I'm going to assume that LeBron just kind of opts in, and I'm not going to assume that we can convince him to take like a pay cut or something like that. One, it doesn't really matter if he takes a pay cut, so I'm just going to assume that LeBron James has accepted that. He's coming back the next year. And you know what? I'm going to look at these three guys down here. Haven't been huge impact guys for the Lakers this year. Christian Wood, you would hope, would be a little bit better, but he hasn't quite figured out his role yet this year. So I'm going to assume these three dudes also coming back. Now, D'Angelo Russell's the interesting one. I can almost guarantee you D'Angelo Russell is opting out, and that's because he can go get more money. And so I'm going to assume D'Angelo Russell has left this team, and we're going to have to go sign him in free agency because, like I said before, that's the only way we can go over the cap anyway, so we might as well try to maximize bringing him back. And you know what? Let's assume D'Angelo Russell really likes playing in LA, right? Let's assume that's what he likes to do, and we can give him more money because we've got the space to do so. Let's presume that we got to give D'Lo, we're going to say $25 million, right? That's what I'm going to assume over, how old is D'Lo? D'Lo's 28. Yeah, he's probably getting a 4-year contract at the very least. We're going to assume, you know what, it might be more with how D'Lo's been playing this year, man. I mean, 16 points. I mean, starter level quality. We'll assume, you know what, I'll assume it's more so like 27 mil. That's what I'll presume. Okay, so we got D'Angelo Russell back in the team, 27 million. Let's build out the rotation that we have so far and see where our holes are at. So we have D'Angelo Russell. He's sliding in at the point guard here. We're going to assume Austin Reeves falls in here. I'm going to go with LeBron here. I'm going to go with Hachimura here. I know this isn't always what actually happens, but this is what I would do. And then we're going to go AD here. Gabe Vincent slides in at the backup point. Where do we have? We have Vanderbilt, who's limited extremely offensively, but you know what? He's still gonna fit somewhere. I'm going to assume Hood Schifino kind of plays this role here. We got Christian Wood as another center, along with Jackson Hayes. So we've got a lot going on at center. We got Cam Reddish as another wing, and then Maxwell Lewis, we are going to throw him in at the backup 2 right now. So this is a pretty solid basketball team. They're not great in like real life right now. I mean, if we go to the standings right here, where are they at? I'm going to assume, are they still like the 10th seed? No, they're not. They're the 9th. Okay, so, you know, a little bit above the Warriors, but still not in great position, paying a shit ton of money. We've got good players. Anthony Davis has been healthy this year. Austin Reeves has kind of had some moments where he hasn't quite been as good as maybe you want him to be, but also he's on a pretty team-friendly deal. D'Lo obviously been killing it recently. I'm more than happy to keep D'Lo on this team, especially because he can play on and off ball. He's not the best defender in the world, but you know what? Maybe that's where we got to make some changes. So here's my thing, right? I'm looking at this roster, and I don't know exactly how we bring in like another superstar player per se. It's hard to put 3 superstar players on an NBA team nowadays, and I feel like more so just between like Reeves, Braun, James, I called him James, Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell. I feel like that's kind of your core right there. Like you could make the argument that like a sign and trade for like a D'Lo or like an Austin Reeves or something can happen. But I think the bang for your buck you're getting out of Reeves, and just the fact that he's been on the team for a little bit, he's played with these guys before, he's had success with them before. I think I want to keep Austin Reeves on the team, but I do have some ideas of some players that we could bring in and move on from some of these other contracts so that we can try and just bulk up the rest of the roster around these guys. All right, so I'm here managing the Lakers roster right now, and I know that this doesn't have like a way to project to like 24, 25, so the numbers are like slightly off. It's not the biggest deal in the world, so just take it as is right now. The numbers are close enough, and with exceptions and stuff like that, these trades will still happen. But I want to make a trade, and there's a particular player I have in mind from the Toronto Raptors, and that's Bruce Brown. So the Raptors have the ability to cut Bruce Brown at the end of the season, and there's a team option for him. And now, here's my thought. I can't just go sign Bruce Brown, though. So what I'm doing as the Lakers GM is I'm calling them up and I'm like, hey, don't cut Bruce Brown for me. All right? I'll make it worth your while. All right? Like, I'll slide you some things. You just got to be a little bit patient with me. So let's throw Bruce Brown in, and I got to clear a little bit of space. And what do the Raptors want right now? They want players that they can build around. They've made that very clear. So I'm starting this off with Jalen Hood-Schifino. Now, if we just throw in Gabe Vincent, that trade works right there. But is that enough to get them Bruce Brown? Now, we do have a little bit of leverage in this situation, right? Because they could just say, well, we'll just keep Bruce Brown, right? We'll pay him his money. He'll be on the team. We'll try and trade him during the season. That's fair. Or maybe they say they don't want to pay this money right now because they're not going to be competitive anyway. And they're like, okay, well, maybe we're just going to get rid of Bruce Brown if we don't get something for him. So my thought is I'm looking at our picks right here. Is Bruce Brown worth a first-round pick for just a season? Probably not, but I've got a couple draft picks this year that I can use. Toronto this year just has 2 picks. They've got Detroit's second-round pick, which is actually pretty valuable, and they've got Indiana's first-round pick, which isn't too valuable. So, you know, they don't have a ton of draft assets in that way. They start to bulk up a little bit more towards 2026. But let's say we throw them our second-round pick this year, and then what if we say we're also giving them like 2 more second-round picks here in like 2026, 27? Is that really what they're going to be interested in? They probably don't want the 2026 one, so you know what? We'll keep that one, and what you can do is you can have the 2025 Clippers pick, you can have the 2027 Lakers pick. So now we just gave up quite a few second-round picks, I know. But in this trade right here, we're going to say that we acquired Bruce Brown. They gave up, or they're taking on Gabe Vincent for us. Jalen Hood-Schifino's heading over there. That's a player that they can develop. He was a first-round pick, top 20 pick just this last year. Pretty valuable thing for them to bring in and develop. They don't have a ton at the point guard position anyway outside of Quickly. So you know what? It's a guy that they can look to develop, and we get to bring in Bruce Brown. So Jalen Hood-Schifino off the team now. Gabe Vincent off the team now. We lose 2 point guard positions here, and we'll move everybody else up this list. Then finally, we can bring Bruce Brown in, and now, oh boy, we are struggling with money now. So obviously, this puts us into that second apron, and that's not necessarily like the hard cap in basketball. There's plenty of ways to get around that, and I'm not going to bother discussing all of those because there are a lot of them. There's trade exceptions that go into stuff like this, and it's a whole crazy mess. But the point is, Bruce Brown is on this team now, and Bruce Brown's going to slide in here as the backup 2 guard. He provides us a little bit of defense, some extra ball handling on this team that currently has no backup point guards, and just overall, he's going to be a nice glue guy that I feel like we're kind of missing on this team. Like, there's not like a real hard glue guy, you know, that guy that'll make the extra pass, get you some easy buckets here or there, play some good defense, get a big rebound. So throwing Bruce Brown on this team makes me feel a little bit better. But now, what do we do with the remaining 4 roster spots? As we can see here, don't have any picks this year, so that means we got to go find some minimum contract players that are going to be impactful. Or we got to trade some of these other guys that maybe we're not all that interested in. If I'm thinking about trading these guys, right, and it would be some of these guys here, like Vanderbilt, Christian Wood, Hayes, Reddish, right? If I'm going and trading for like a singular player or something like that, where all of their combined money is going to now be their contract, that means I'm filling out those other roster spots with minimum contract dudes, and then you kind of end up with what the Phoenix Suns have this year, which isn't the worst thing ever, because I'm sure we can convince people to come play in LA for a minimum contract, come play with LeBron, come play with these dudes, we got a loaded team. That's not like the hardest thing in the world to convince people of, but it's something to think about. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm not willing to trade Vanderbilt. I think the value he brings defensively is huge, and I think we can just find a way to have other offensive players around him on the court. Let's try to develop him and make sure that he has somewhat of a jump shot next season. I'm cool with that. What I might try to do is I might try to package some of these other dudes along with either these second round picks, or maybe we might hold on to the first round pick. So that if someone becomes available during the season, we can make a move. But for now, I think I'm going to try to package some of these other dudes and ship them off. And I've got a team in mind in the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets are sellers right now. They also have a player by the name of Nick Richards, who's on contract or who's under contract for a couple years still. I love Nick Richards' game. But here's the thing. Nick Richards is going to be playing behind Mark Williams once he's healthy, right? This is a young team, and he's 26 now. He's going to be 27. Great defensive player, plays well around the rim, always knows exactly where to be, good athletic, great size, right? Love him, but he doesn't necessarily fit in with this whole like reconstruction that the Hornets are trying to do. So my thought is that we can convince them to give us Nick Richards. So how can we make this happen? Nick Richards doesn't make a ton of money. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And you know what? We've got other guys that we can move on this team, right? Just looking at it. Like, we can move a Jackson Hayes. We can move a Christian Wood. They might be interested in a Christian Wood who maybe, like, let him develop a little bit more. Again, not develop, but give him some more PT. He might just get them some buckets this next year and help them space the floor for guys like LaMelo and Brandon Miller. Could be a dynamic option that we sell them on. But more importantly, they might just be more interested in our second-round picks. So let's start it off there with just Christian Wood, and that doesn't work. That's totally fine. I'm willing to give you Cam Reddish as well, and there's a reason I'm willing to give up Cam Reddish, because there's someone else I'm willing to bring in, and that works right there. So what we're going to assume is that Cam Reddish and Christian Wood are on their way out, throw in 2 second-round picks, and we've brought in Nick Richards to this team. So let's take these boys out. Cam Reddish, Christian Wood, those boys are on the outs. I don't know why Nick Richards didn't show up in my database. I clearly did something wrong with that, but don't worry about it. Nick Richards is here now, and he's on the team. So what does that mean? Christian Wood is gone. We now have Nick Richards sliding in there, and then who else did we lose? We lost Cam Reddish. And this is what we have so far. We now have a core of D'Angelo Russell. We got Austin Reeves and Bruce Brown. Maxwell Lewis is there as well. LeBron. We got AD, Nick Richards, Jackson Hayes. Great center rotation. Awesome. Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt. Guys that I love playing the 4. Big, strong bodies that can go out and guard a lot of people. That's awesome. Now, how can we add a little bit of offense with these 5 roster spots that we have left that are all minimum contract dudes? Let's go explore. Let's start off with point guard because we don't have anybody there. Kyle Lowry would be available, and for a minimum contract as well, I bet you we can talk Kyle Lowry into joining this team right here. Let me just look to see if there's anyone else right away. Like Reggie Jackson's got a player option. He's definitely going into that. No. We're going after Kyle Lowry. We're pushing him hard. We're saying that we brought Mr. Lowry in. Kyle Lowry's been in the NBA for 17 years. If we go over to our minimum contract thing here, 10 plus, that means he gets $3.19 million. It's a minimum contract anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but let's just throw it in anyway. I always do this. I always put 1 extra 0 on everything. I put 2 extra zeros on it. You know, I told y'all my back hurts. It's fine. Just try not to worry about it, okay? We've got Kyle Lowry on the team now. The dude that can go get us a couple buckets, right? Coming off the bench, a ton of experience, been in the finals a couple times. Now we need to address the wing situation, and there's someone in particular that I'm looking at here, actually someone that's been on the Lakers already. And it's this boy here, Max Christie. He's going to be a restricted free agent. We're going to be able to match whatever someone throws at him. So we're just going to assume nobody's probably going to throw anything that crazy at Max Christie. So let's assume we get him back on a 1-year minimum. So we're going to throw Max Christie on this roster for about $2 million. Max Christie actually been pretty solid for them, like shooting wise and everything. He's had some intensity going towards the rim. Love having a guy like Max Christie on the team. He's already familiar with everybody. Awesome. 3 roster spots left. Let's try and find another wing. Maybe a 3-and-D wing would be kind of nice. So let's just look at like the forward position here. Is there somebody here that would scream they should be on our team? The guy I'm looking at here is Nick Batum. I think Nick Batum brings a little bit of 3-and-D that we could use on this team. Plus, he's going to be signing most likely with a team trying to compete for a championship. So I like the idea of bringing Nick Batum in on a minimum. All right, we slide Nick Batum in. I don't even know where he would fit rotationally. I would assume Max Christie maybe gets the nod before him, but we throw Nick Batum in there. We like that. They're shooting on this team now. That's apparent. Can we try to find a stretch 4? What about a Jay Crowder, y'all? Jay Crowder's just kind of always the guy that you slide onto these championship teams as like a reserve. I kind of like the idea of bringing a Jay Crowder in. That or like a Jordan Nwora. Are they going to give up like the rights to him? Because we might be able to get him on a minimum as well. You know what? I'm going to say we're bringing in Nwora, mostly just because I want a little bit more youth on this team. You need guys like that can kind of go up and down the court, get you some buckets. He's been a floor spacer in the past, not the best shooter this year, but maybe with a team like this, he can slide into a little bit more understanding of a role. I'm just going to put Nwora for here as well as a 3. But okay, let's go find one more point guard to round out this roster, eh? So let's go back to point guard, see who else we can bring in to try to help this team. There's Pat Bev, that's always an option. Aaron Holiday's an interesting one. I kind of like the idea of that. McLaughlin could be interesting. Do we convince Spencer Dinwiddie to even just come back for a minimum contract? Maybe it just goes well with Dinwiddie on the team, and you know what? Let's just bring Spencer Dinwiddie back. I like that. He's already going to have some experience on the team. We're going to assume nobody's paying him a crazy amount this offseason anyway. I'm going to assume we got Spencer Dinwiddie back. All right, well, this is one of the more expensive teams that we've ever seen, but you know what? The Warriors still probably pay their guys more. So this is what the roster looks like now. We've got a team that we think can compete for an NBA championship. The big ones being adding Bruce Brown onto the team, bringing Nick Richards in as another big that maybe we can play with Anthony Davis even sometimes. So I like this. We kept a lot of the core together. We just built a more foundational team around them. A little more experience, a little bit more reliability on the team. But you guys let me know. Let me know what you think of this team. Could this team compete for a championship? We're presuming Austin Reeves gets going a little bit more with this team and that D'Lo continues to cook. And maybe I'm asking too much out of an old LeBron James. But this is my best attempt with it. There's only so many assets that the Lakers have to work with. But they still have a first-round pick going into the season that they could use if they really wanted to. So it's not just all on the table right here. But for the time being, let me guys know what you think of this. If you like it, subscribe, leave a comment, especially the comments. I love reading the comments. And let me know what team I should do next. But until then, y'all, I appreciate y'all. See ya.